And welcome everyone to Beyond the Forecast. I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and today we are going to take you into a few more fun weather and science weather stories / experiments / items that you see in your everyday weather, or maybe that you don't see in your everyday weather. We are here to give you the science behind that weather. So today, first up is going to meet meteorologist John Gross. He is going to give you part 2 of his explanation of inversions. Yesterday we had part 1. Today he finishes that up for you. And then on the flip side of that, John will be back to give you an explanation of fall foliage. Now you might say, well, Mike, we are in spring. Things are greening up. Why do I care about this? Well, believe it or not, temperature inversions and lack of sunshine give us those beautiful fall colors. So we're putting the fall foliage explainer in with the inversions to kind of go hand in hand. And then at the end of today's show, we will take you into another segment of our Beyond the Forecast live streaming podcast that we do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. But before we get into that, let's talk about this day in weather history. So this day in weather history, May 14th, 1896, just a few years ago, the mercury plunged to 10 degrees below zero in Climax, Colorado. It was the lowest reading on record for the USA during the month of May. 10 below. And as far as I can find, it is still the coldest temperature in May. I saw that in Hawaii, on the mountain there in Hawaii, they got to 11 below Celsius, but that's 12 degrees above zero. So I'm wondering if this one is in Celsius or Fahrenheit, but regardless, 10 below, that is mighty cold. And in May 14th, halfway through May, and they were 10 below. Whew. I actually don't even want to think about that. Trivia. Yesterday, we wanted to know, when does the latest drought monitor come out? And if you pay attention to our forecast, you know that there's a certain day that we always show you the latest drought monitor. Is it Tuesday nights, Saturday mornings, Thursday mornings, or Friday nights? It's Thursday morning. So every morning, every Thursday, I believe at 8 a.m., they release the latest drought monitor across the country. And that is when we get the latest look to see if we've improved or if the drought's gotten a little bit worse. So it comes out every Thursday morning. So there you go. Now, today, trivia, we want to know, on average, how many named storms do we have in an Atlantic hurricane season? Is it A, 14, B, 7, C, 20, or is it 18? D. QR code right there. Hit it with your phone. Answer away. Again, is on average, how many named storms do we have in an Atlantic hurricane season? Is it 14, 7, 20, or 18? We'll have that answer for you tomorrow, right here on Beyond the Forecast. All right, viewer photo of the day brought to you by Great Rooms. And today's photo comes to us from Lori Curtis. Check out this magnificent picture of this magnificent creature, bald eagle. Absolutely beautiful photo. She said it was he was flying around Black Lake shoreline all morning, and then he took perch right there in the tree in their yard, and she snapped that photo. So, Lori, thank you for sending in this picture. Absolutely stunning bird. Absolutely gorgeous picture. And thank you to Great Rooms for sponsoring viewer photo of the day. And if you want to send in your viewer photos, go for it. You can either send them to weather@910news.com, or you can head to the 910 News website, and where you see photo submissions, you can send them in there. Or if you go to the 910 News website and click on Beyond the Forecast, there will be a submit viewer photo section for you to click. So that's how you get those photos to us, and that's how we show them here on Beyond the Forecast. But coming up next, starting the show off with meteorologist John Gross, diving into his second part of inversions. Yesterday, he started giving you the science behind inversions, what it is and why it impacts you. Today, he's going to finish that up. And then after that, stay tuned because he'll start talking to you about fall foliage. No, but it just goes hand in hand with inversions. Don't worry, we're not diving back that quickly into fall. It just goes hand in hand. So we'll have all that coming up right after the break.
Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist John Gross. Today, we're going to continue to talk about what exactly is an inversion, and we're going to focus on a few more examples of how inversions and different temperature profiles at different layers in the atmosphere can come into play with not only cold air damming, marine layers. We already touched on those in a previous video. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about pollutants, smog, and wildfire smoke, and how, again, those different temperatures at different layers of the atmosphere can cause certain conditions, not only where we live, but in the atmosphere itself. So recapping what exactly an inversion is, going back to our 3D box, remember on a normal day, during a normal profile, you're talking about the sun warming the surface, and then as you're going up in height within the atmosphere, remember warmer air, it's more buoyant, it wants to freely rise, so as you continue to go up in throughout the atmosphere, temperatures naturally get colder with height. So that's what we see on a typical day. But when you're talking about this inversion, this is when you've got a warmer layer, we'll call it the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and then you have a cooler layer below that. And remember, your colder air, at least relative to your warmer air, it's more dense. So it's harder for it to naturally rise. And as it runs into this warmer layer, that warmer layer, it's going to say, now, retreat back down to the surface. And that's how we can see this inversion occur. And this can also be what we call a capping inversion. And we'll touch on that again, but this is also talking about how we can trap certain pollutants, and that's what we're going to touch on a little bit more today, the smog as well as wildfire smoke. So let's focus on the smog first, or at least air quality. And this is, again, what you're talking about. So where we just showed you that warmer layer in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, that's what we have here. So big metropolitan areas, unfortunately, a direct result can be higher pollutants, otherwise known as smoke and fog, what we call smog. And that air, it's within that cooler layer right near the surface, and it wants to naturally rise. It wants to naturally mix throughout the atmosphere. But if you have this inversion in play, then that air has nowhere to go but back down. And that's going to continue to also carry all the pollutants within the smog. Not going to be good news for your air quality, especially if you are part of a sensitive group, if you have asthma, things of that nature. And even if you don't, it's just not good for anybody that has lungs, which includes pretty much all of us. And you're also talking about smoke. That can be from an existing wildfire. Unfortunately, it can be from human error that we can see, but it's the same type of philosophy. When you're talking about that smoke, and you also have that inversion in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, that air wants to naturally rise. It's already pretty warm because you already have a source of fire, and that smoke, again, once it reaches that inversion, that warmer air, it's still relatively warmer than the layer below it. So it has nowhere to go but down. So that's going to keep that smoke trapped in those low levels of the atmosphere, unfortunately, right where we live. So not good news for air quality, not good news for people with sensitive groups or part of sensitive groups, not good news if you have asthma, if you have lungs, again, including all of us. So this is probably going to be a case where an air quality alert day might be issued. Not a bad idea to stay indoors if you can, close your windows. Another good thing, if you're traveling and you run into a scenario like this, usually at least newer cars nowadays, they have a feature where you can circulate the air inside your cabin so you're not bringing in that smoky air to where you are in your vehicle. So just some things to keep in mind there when you're talking about inversions, including smog as well as smoke from wildfires. And we already mentioned this before, but we'll go over it one more time, the capping inversion. So this is very crucial to when we're talking about thunderstorm development. Because remember, that warmer air near the surface, it wants to freely rise. If it's running into what we call that inversion, that air has nowhere to go but back down. So that's what we can call a cap. Think of your boiling pot of water, your favorite pasta. If you take that lid off, if you've already have a lot of heat building, we can break the cap, but we need to get the layer below our inversion warmer than the temperatures that are causing the original inversion itself. And if we can get that, otherwise known as enough daytime heating, then we can eventually what we call break the cap. And that can be enough to cause what we have initiation, and then you can start to build updrafts. You can start to get what's called cumulonimbus clouds, and that can be enough to break our cap and give us chances for thunderstorms. But if we keep that lid on, no big plume of smoke or at least steam, and then you're suppressing the atmosphere, so you still do have the ingredients, but if you can help to break that cap, same type of thing with the smog, same type of thing with the smoke, that can help to at least initiate the process in getting that air, that warmer air up into the atmosphere, helping to build thunderstorms. This can also help if we can break the cap in this type of scenario when we're talking about the smog or the smoke, at least to mix it out of the atmosphere where we live. So at least we're not talking about as poor air quality, but same type of philosophy if you do want to build thunderstorms, at least during the peak evening hours of the afternoon. I'm meteorologist John Gross reporting for Beyond the Forecast.
Thanks, John. Now, coming up next, we send it back over to John. He's going to talk about fall foliage, which does go hand in hand with temperature inversions. We'll have all that right after the break.
Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist John Gross. Today, we're going to be talking about why we see the fall foliage during the time frame that we usually do in the fall season. We touched on the growing season. Now let's go ahead and talk about why we see the different leaves changing colors to those vibrant yellows, oranges, and reds. But you got to go back to why we already see the growing season the way we do in the first place. So back to biology class we go. You're talking about photosynthesis, and one of those main pigments that you're talking about within our leaf is chlorophyll. And that is the green pigment that helps to trap sunlight and essentially give the leaf food. It's eating good. So that's what you're talking about during that growing season, when you really start to see things greening up. And that's what we talk about in the spring, even getting into the early summer months. So during that growing season, not only do you have different colors already in your leaf, you're talking about some yellows, oranges, even some browns, but when you got that chlorophyll production at its peak, that green pigment is really dominant. But as we get into the fall season, then we start to lose that chlorophyll production. So that green pigment, well, it's not as favorable. So that's when you start to see more of those different colors, the prettier colors that we like to see during our fall foliage. You're talking about those yellows, oranges, those very vibrant reds sometimes. You can talk about aerial photos of the trees looking gorgeous, especially as you're going into the northern tier of the country. Here's a big reason why. Remember, we were talking about the sunlights. When you're getting into the spring and even into the summer months, our sun angle, especially here in the northern hemisphere, starts to get higher. So you get more of those direct rays when you're getting into especially the summertime. When we go from summer to fall, our sun angle starts to become lower. So our sun angles, or at least those are direct sun rays, at least here in the northern hemisphere, they're not as direct. So it's lower, so we actually continue to get less sunlight. Overall average temperatures start to get colder. And as we continue to decrease that sunlight, cells start to form at the base of the leaf, and then essentially it stops carrying fluids throughout the leaf. Essentially, it's food. So that's when you start to see the leaf essentially die off, and then that's when those different colors, those yellows, those oranges, those reds, that's when they start to become a little bit more vibrant too. So this, again, is a big reason why we talk about that color change. Those fluids, they're no longer carried through the leaf, so essentially the leaf is not eating anymore. Those sugars get trapped, and then you start to talk about new color pigments, or just essentially some of those other colors start to become a little bit more dominant within the leaf. So you could get those browns, you could get those yellows, those oranges, those reds falling off of the tree. Now, a few factors can go into whether we see the fall foliage taking off at a certain time frame. Is it delayed? Is it accelerated? And one of those main things we talk about is the amount of moisture. Are we very dry? Are we talking about a drought, or are we very wet? Have we had a lot of moisture moving through the late summer, getting into the early fall? So when you're talking about more of the moisture, the leaf color change is on time. So you have a little bit more of that moisture, and that's when those colors are a little bit more vibrant compared to if you're talking about more of a drier season, going later into the summer, even the early fall. If you've got less moisture to work with, that leaf color change can be either muted or even delayed by several weeks. So that's one component we talk about. Another one is temperatures. Are we seeing cooler nights? Are we seeing very warm conditions during the afternoon? Are temperatures as a whole above average, below average? Where are we landing as we're going into the late summer and early fall? So when you're talking about the cooler temperature impact, you've got seasonably warm days and then those cooler, crisp nights. So that also helps to make those leaf colors a little bit more vibrant, versus when you're talking about temperatures a lot warmer than average. So you're talking about abnormally warm days, above average temperatures. Even the temperatures as you're going into the overnight period. A little bit warmer than what we usually do see on average. So those temperatures definitely can impact the vibrancy of those colors. And that is a big reason why we see the fall foliage, well, during the fall season. I'm meteorologist John Gross reporting for Beyond the Forecast.
Thanks, John. Now, coming up next, we show you a segment from one of our podcasts that we shot live that you can discuss with us. We'll have all the details for after the break. And welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Forecast. I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and here at the end of the show, we'd like to show you a segment from our live streaming podcast that we do every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Now, this week, we haven't got to our podcast just yet, but we're working hard at it. We got a lot of things going on at the station. So we're going to deep dive back into some of our other podcasts to show you some items that we have talked about in the 6 podcasts that we have done. So we have gone through and we've talked about the spring that's coming up, the summer that's coming up. We've talked about climate. We've talked a lot about several things. But today we're going to jump into one of those podcasts and show you exactly some of our discussions with you. Because these are live streams, we discuss with you the questions and topics that are either pertinent for the week or that you choose on. And then we have any answers for questions from you, or just discuss some of the things that might go hand in hand with those topics and our weather. So check this out. This is a clip from one of those segments. We have a lot of severe weather because of our unique placement, put it that way.
Yes.
The cold air from Canada and then the warm air from the Gulf.
Yes.
They collide. Usually that's right where you normally see Tornado Alley painted.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing with more warm air, more far-reaching colder air to the south, these more extreme dips and or troughs and ridges, you're seeing things start to expand.
Exactly.
And northern Michigan, just a few short years ago, had a very large tornado in Gaylord.
Yeah.
EF3. That was very much more of a Central Plains tornado.
100%, yeah.
It was a
that was
Meteorology
your,
101
I would say textbook tornado.
Yes, I mean, you could see it on a radar. You didn't have to switch to velocity to see upper air. You could see it, a hook echo. You could see a debris ball. Everything that you learned.
That happened in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that
happened in Gaylord, Michigan.
And that's kind of, what we are relaying this week to prep everyone for. We're not immune to those things.
No, not at all.
So that's kind of, the whole point of our topic of severe weather. Don says, fire up chips. Fire up chips, Don. I'm not a chip.
Neither
Haley's
am I,
not a chip.
but
we still like Central.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But welcome. Appreciate you all being here.
Yes, thank you.
So let's start off with talking about, what we were going to touch last this week on the show. Let's talk about flooding.
Yes.
So flooding is one thing that maybe a lot of people don't see as necessarily severe, because there's many different types of flooding.
Yeah, it's kind of on the last of your mind, depending on where you are, especially as our big location of northern Michigan. Mm-hmm. Flooding might just be like springtime for you.
Right.
Like it's just, the river swelled because of the snow melting, so we're seeing floods. But the flooding we're talking about, the severe weather flooding and just in general, that's the widespread rain. The roadways are closed. Bridges are getting collapsed by. That's the kind of basis of the flash flooding that we talk about. Not really your springtime flooding that we see. Yeah. It's the things that can change in just about an hour to 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. I mean, flash flooding is like changing now. So that is what mainly is a severe concern. Is obviously flooding is a concern because it is the number one. So there you go. And we were working very hard on getting all of those on the website for you, as well as anywhere you take in your podcast. But if you want to catch them before that, you can always head to the 910 News YouTube channel or the Beyond the Forecast Facebook page, where these are living, and you can catch out those topics and our discussion with you all. So there you go. And we'll have our next topic coming up here shortly. So, for meteorologist John Gross, meteorologist Haley Fischetti, I am Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens. Thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Forecast. We'll be right back here tomorrow at 4:30 for more science and weather, and also STEM activities for the kiddos, as well as maybe yourself. Because I'm not going to lie, we do some experiments and I get enthralled in them. I was like, this is fun. But that's why I'm in weather and science. So thank you for joining us. We'll be right back here tomorrow at 4:30 until 5 o'clock, giving you more be on the forecast. Be good, stay safe, take care. We'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.